Hello everyone, this is Shreyansh Prakash, and in this video, we'll be going through one of the front-end React question. So this is the question, given this class-based component, what would be the output when I'm clicking on these buttons, okay? So we have 4 different buttons. Each one of them have a event handler, but in a different way. And what would be the output if I go ahead and click on them? Okay, so that's the question. So going to the front end, so here you can see we have 4 buttons. Now, if you click on one, okay, you're not gonna get anything. When you click on 3, you're gonna get this alert with my component. When I click on 4, I'm gonna get the same thing. But when I click on 2, then my application is going to crash, saying cannot read property name of undefined. Okay. So that's basically the answer. What would be the output for each when user will click on each and every button. Just to add to that, I'm just giving you the answer to why it behaves the way it behaves. Okay. So here you can see we have a constructor at the top. There we have the name. Okay. Then we are binding. Okay. I'll come back to that. Then we have a method handle click 1. Another method handle click 3. Both of them are alerting this dot name. Okay. The difference is that handle click is a normal function, and the handle click 3 is my arrow function. Okay. Then in my render method, I'm returning the JSX, where there are 4 different methods. Now let's dive deeper into how each and every event handlers are getting attached. So coming to the top, on click, the first button, you can see this dot click 1, and we are calling the method directly here, right? You can see this, we are calling the method directly here. Okay. Now in the second button, we are just passing this dot handle click 1. Okay. So we are just passing the reference. The same thing with the handle click 2 for the third button, and handle click 3 for the fourth button. Okay. Now these 3 looks the same, but they will behave differently. Now, before going to that, let me talk about the first one. So in the first one, you can see we are calling the method directly here, right? In this case, when we click on the button, then nothing is going to happen, as I showed you already, right? Let me show you again. So when I'm clicking on the first button, nothing is happening, right? Why is that? Because I'm already calling the method here, right? When my JSX got attached, at that time, it got called. And now whenever the event, on-click event is getting triggered, this method is not going to get called. Okay. That is why we are not getting any alert, right? So even though your click method should go ahead and do this alert, this method itself is not going to get called. Okay. Because this is not the way how you should call the method on the event. Okay. Now coming to the second one. In the second one, you can see we are calling handle click itself directly. Right. So we are passing this reference here, right? And if you remember, when we are clicking the second button, we were getting the error, right? Cannot read property name of undefined. Now, why we are getting that? So when you pass an event handler like this to a particular event, we are passing this as a reference. Okay, this is getting passed as a reference. Okay, so this is getting passed as a reference. Now, when you come inside here, then we are alerting this dot name. Okay. Now, in this case, this is becoming undefined. Okay. Why? Because we are passing this as a reference. And when we pass that as a reference, then React will go ahead and call it as an independent method. Okay. And that is why it will become undefined. Okay. So you see the difference between the button 2 and button 3. Okay. In button 3, what we are doing, we have handle click 2, which is equal to this dot handle click dot bind this. Right? So you're binding the this keyword, okay, which will refer this app component, binding the this to the component itself. Okay, and that is why when you will call this method, you would have the this value, which is going to refer to the app component itself. And that is when you would be able to get the value of name, which we saw when we were clicking button 3 and 4. Okay. If you go to number 3 now, button 3. Now in this case, you will see that we have an arrow function. Now the way that this keyword works with arrow function is that it does not care how the method is getting called. It will just look into its environment and derive the this from there. Okay. So handle 3, this particular method, its environment is my app component. Okay. And that is why the this keyword here is getting mapped to my app component. And that is why whenever you will call the handle 3 method, you'll get the name as my component. Okay. So again, repeating from bottom to top again, talking about handle 3 in the fourth button, why it is working? Because when we are calling this method, since this is an arrow method, the this keyword is getting mapped to its environment. The environment of handle click 3 is my app component. And that is why this is getting mapped to my app component. And that app component has the value name. And that's why we are able to access the value name. In case of button 3, why we are able to access name again? So in case of button 3, what we are doing is we have handle click 2, which we are defining in our constructor, the value of which is equal to this dot handle click 1 dot bind this. So we are binding the this keyword of the app to this particular component, which means that whenever you're going to call the method click 2, that this keyword will always get mapped to my app component. Okay. Now coming to button 2, in this case, we are not doing binding. We are not doing arrow using arrow function as well. And that is why the this keyword in this case is getting undefined. Okay. And that's why when it is coming here in the alert part, since this is undefined, it is throwing us an error stating that this is undefined, right? That is what you can see here. Cannot read property name of undefined. Okay. You see the arrow here. This is where we are getting the issue. Okay. And in case of the first button, we are calling the method directly here itself. Okay. And we are not calling it based on the event. So now, even though we are having the click event in this particular button, this method is not going to get called. Okay. The way you could have resolved that is by removing this. Okay. And then doing, say, bind this here. Okay. Or if you want the method to be like that only, you could have done it something like this. Okay. Now again, you can see here, this is an arrow method. So this will get mapped to the environment, which will be the app component. So these are two different ways in which you could have resolved the first button. How do you have resolved the button 2? Like on click of this, it should not give us an error. You see here the way it is working, right? I've already shown you that also. You could have done this like bind this. Okay, this is one way of solving it. The other way is if you want to keep it like this, okay, you can go ahead and do the bind here at the top. Okay, so one would become bind this. Okay, this is the other way of doing that. Or the third way, again, I've showed you using arrow methods, that you will create arrow method here and then call it here. Okay, so these are the different ways in which you could have resolved it. So I hope it's clear, the behavior and why it is behaving like that and how you're going to resolve the issue as well. Okay, so that was all for this video. Thank you.